Wrongful death is any time the negligence of someone else has caused, the unaliving of an individual, right? So that's going to be, we're in the wrongful death world. It could be in a car accident. It could be, that's probably the most common, in car accidents, those types of things. But then you also have medical malpractice, which, if you follow just what wrongful death is, they sound like they're the same thing. But anytime that the death is caused and somebody is under medical care, that would fall under medical malpractice and it won't be considered wrongful death. So just want to make that distinction because a lot of callers will
Mhm.
call in and say, well, my sister, was prescribed the wrong medicine, or, this happened or that happened. Okay, well, if they're under his doctor's care, that's going to fall under medical malpractice. But back to your original question, yes, a wrongful death would occur anytime somebody acted negligently and caused the death of another.
Welcome to the Walk Weekly. We have here today Oratella Esquire, as he's known as the Policy Limit Queen. All right. Aura Taylor is an MBA. She graduated from Clayton State University, and she got her JD from Georgia State University College of Law. And she founded Taylor Law Firm in 2018. All right, and her practice focuses on personal injury and wrongful death. All right, so I can break that down a little bit. We're talking about car, truck, rideshare, motorcycle, pedestrian, premises. When you get hurt, that's basically what it is. When you get hurt, you want to seek out professional counseling. And the Taylor Law Firm is in the Atlanta area. They have offices in Douglasville and Marietta.
That's right.
All right. We're going to turn it over to Laura. And we got a lot of questions, guys. So if you want some free legal advice, I think y'all guys need to hang in there on this with this personal injury. And if you get into an accident or death, wrongful death, unfortunately, those things happen, but that's life. So you have a lawyer here on the show today so we can talk about it. But hey, surprise, surprise, we got our co-host back today. All right, Miss Bridget Stokes.
Hi,
Hello, Bridget.
everybody. Hello. It's good to be back.
Okay. I'm so happy to have you back. I tell you. Yes, you my North Carolina. We're family. All right. So we have a lawyer in the house. So Laura, the first question I want to ask you is when people get in an accident, they look for Jewish lawyers. Why is that?
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, be honest.
I don't know that I necessarily heard or was familiar with that was a thing.
Uh,
What I'm accustomed to, people kind of doing after an accident is either, asking first for a referral from like a friend or something. I mean, to me, if I'm gonna, want to do business with somebody, I'm gonna want somebody that I'm familiar with or that I've, worked with, or somebody that I know has worked with.
huh?
Otherwise, I hear that, people will choose lawyers that they hear on ads or, see on social media or something like that. I didn't necessarily know that there was something with Jewish lawyers specifically. So I'm gonna have to be honest on that one. While I've never heard that before.
That could be a northern thing. You're down in Atlanta. We in New York with the exception of, Ms. Stokes over here. She's in North
I'm
Carolina.
in North
But
Carolina.
I'm in New York and you're in
Okay.
Georgia.
That may be a northern thing, but that's for
It's a
sure not
northern thing.
a thing. Yeah.
It's a northern thing.
I may have
Okay.
heard
I
a
just want to.
tidbit of that. Back in the day, I guess I'm the senior here. And back in the day, I used to hear something similar like, man, get you a Jewish lawyer because them boys, they know what to do. Get them Jewish
See, there
lawyers.
you
So I
go.
have
I
heard
must have
that.
gotten it from North
Right.
Carolina,
Hmm
I've not heard that, but it doesn't mean it's not a thing. I've just not heard it. And it,
It
as
may be
far
an
as I
age.
know,
It may be
it
an
may be,
age
or it
generational
could
thing.
be geographical. Now it could be, we're not going to, I'm not going to do that to y'all. It could just be geographical, but that's not really a thing here.
All right. Okay. All right. So I answered that. Now, next question I have. You know, why do people hate lawyers?
I think
Before we
they
get
don't.
into the nitty gritty, I just want
Yeah.
these some
I
things off the
think
top that
when
I
it comes
wanted
to
to
personal
discuss.
injuries, and I hear this all the time, I hear that people say they're distrustful of lawyers because the lawyer, the doctor took all the money, and they didn't get anything. I hear that, which makes me cringe because I think that that's just fundamentally wrong. And so when I
Mhm.
founded my firm, one of the things that I did was I put into place that we never take more than the client here. And that's what we advertise with, that's in our contract, because I just don't think that that's ethical to do so. It's completely legal. I mean, there's many lawyers that take whatever their fee is, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm not saying that lawyers that don't follow our, policy, or don't do the same things. Or I'm not saying they're wrong, but that's just not something we do here at the Taylor Law Firm. We never take more than our injured client. And I think that's why there's a negative connotation maybe with injury attorneys, because there are some attorneys that will take whatever the fee is despite what the client gets, and we just don't do that here.
Is there, this is an old question. These are basic questions that, I think I'm trying to ask on behalf of our listeners is that do y'all guys, I mean, the defense lawyer and the plaintiff, you know, in a civil, because you handle civil cases, all right? Is there some agreement between the two lawyers as, oh yeah, we've been here before, and, how you doing on the last case, and we did this and we did. Is there some, you know, uh,
No, there's normally a banter. And so to say that you won't come across the same opposing counsel in another matter that's unrelated, that's a stretch. You're probably going to encounter these people again, right? The legal field is so big. But
but
the facts of that case are the facts of that case, and whatever banter you have, you leave it at the door because you understand that you have to advocate for the client, and you're on two different spectrums right now, right? The defense wants to pay the absolute least, and the plaintiff wants you to pay the absolute most. So we're not playing for the same team. So whatever pleasantries, we exchange, or relationships, we leave that. At least I do, right? I can't speak for all attorneys, but I leave that at the door. I'm going to give you the same pleasantries, and we may have a rapport, or, it was great to work with you again, or something like that. But no, we're not
there's
really.
no collusion between the two.
Oh,
That's what I think.
absolutely.
That's it.
If there is, that's a problem. No,
You can lose your license,
that's
right? Your
exactly right,
practice.
because now you're
That's
not
exactly
advocating
right.
for what's best for the client, and you always have to do that.
Okay.
I
All
know
right,
I
Miss.
have experienced a friend of mine, and I'm here in Raleigh, and she went to an attorney um for an issue. I think it was marriage, divorce, or
Uh-huh.
something. And she stands by the word that, and I knew the attorney very well. I didn't think and I know him very well, but she stood by the her word that he judged her on her income, and he wouldn't take her case. So I don't know if
Mm.
that's just something that she felt personally, but I try to convince her I don't think it works like that. So I
Yeah,
don't
it could
know.
have been that there may have been a conflict. Maybe he didn't think that she had a strong case. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why, in the personal injuries realm specifically. I mean, we're a little bit different from family law. They're
Right.
completely
Hmm.
retainer, and we're contingency. But of course, if a client comes to me and I believe they're at fault, or I believe that, the chances of recovery are slim to none, then we probably won't take the case. It's usually not any type of discrimination or anything like that
Hmm.
going on. It may just be we don't believe in the case, and we just don't think they have a strong case, but we would encourage them to get a second opinion, and that's that.
And most time that's what I felt like that may have been it, even though it was divorce. But she insists on that the whole time he was questioning her about her. Well, how much do you make? What is your income? So,
And he could have just thought maybe, and again, I don't know the facts, right? But he could
hmm,
have thought maybe
hmm,
she wasn't being honest. He could have just not. He could have thought she was withholding information, and
hmm,
we have to make sure that we're being careful about that, and we're putting
hmm.
forth um, honest information, and our clients are being honest. And some attorneys, if the trust is breached between the attorney and the client, then that's going to strain the relationship. So maybe he just didn't believe her, and maybe he just didn't want to go forward with feeling that he couldn't trust what she said. Yes, I can.
Okay, I just want to level set. All right, before we go move forward, is that the Taylor Law Firm that was established in 2018.
Hmm.
Your practice focuses on personal injury and wrongful death.
That's right.
All right, and that covers car, truck, rideshare, motorcycle, pedestrian, and premises, with an emphasis on chasing full policy limits.
That's right.
Ergo, you are the policy limit queen,
That's right.
right? All right. So here again, you got offices in Douglasville and Marietta. And you do have a handle here at the Policy Limit Queen,
Hmm.
which will be in the show notes, folks. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So I just want to level set that so that we can, I want to meet the expectations that we set so far.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that everything you've said is spot on. While we do have offices in Marietta and Douglasville, we do practice statewide throughout Georgia and the state of Florida.
Okay. Great, great, great. All right. Now, Georgia splits the death case into two, right? They have
You
what they
said
call the
Georgia does
wrongful
what?
death.
I didn't hear the first part of what you said.
Georgia splits a death case into two.
Okay.
All right, I'm talking death now, and
Okay.
not accident per se. No,
Okay.
well, I'm just checking my notes here. All right, so Georgia splits a death case into a wrongful death claim for the full value of the life of the decedent brought by the spouse, children, parents, or the estate.
Mm-hmm.
And under ABCD, I'm not going to quote the law, all
Mm-hmm.
right, and a separate estate claim for medical bills, funeral costs, and the decedent's pain and suffering before death. All right. Now, as a novice, I don't know that much about this legalese, but I'm trying. So you have to bear along with me.
That's
But the
okay.
most important thing is that the listeners understand what we're talking about.
Sure.
Okay. So, with that said, with this, I guess, ceiling, what would you call it? A ceiling that Georgia puts on the amount that you can receive from a wrongful death? And define what a wrongful death is in Georgia.
Yeah, so I'll first start by defining wrongful death, and then I'll go a little bit of a step further because I want to distinguish between two very, could be a close parallel, but they're very different. So I'd like to distinguish between the two, just so the listeners are clear. Wrongful death is any time the negligence of someone else has caused the unaliving of an individual, right? So that's going to be, we're in the wrongful death world. It could be in a car accident. It could be, that's probably the most common, in car accidents, those types of things. But then you also have medical malpractice, which, if you follow just what wrongful death is, they sound like they're the same thing. But anytime that the death is caused and somebody is under medical care, that would fall under medical malpractice and it won't be considered wrongful death. So just want to make that distinction because a lot of callers will
Okay.
call in and say, well, my sister, was prescribed the wrong medicine, or, this happened or that happened. Okay, well, if they're under his doctor's care, that's going to fall under medical malpractice. But back to your original question, yes, a wrongful death would occur anytime somebody acted negligently and caused the death of another.
Okay. All right. So going back to wrongful death. All right. In the state of Georgia, a surviving spouse's share can never be less than one third, and recovery is divided share alike among spouse and children. So I extrapolate from this is that when somebody's family member, your father, mother, whatever is wrongful, and the family has to try to get some type of satisfaction or, you know, for this person dying. It's $25 per person, 50,000 per crash? I mean, am I getting confused?
So, what it sounds like is that what you're speaking about is a wrongful death case, but then you're talking about if someone caused the accident, which, caused someone
Hmm.
to die,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then their policy limits were state minimum, and so the limits were 2550. And so in those set of facts, unless there was another policy that would cover, so whether that be the person's uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, or that person having the person that caused the accident having multiple policies, whether they were in a, commercial vehicle or something that would lend to additional coverage, unless there was something else like that going on, unfortunately. And that's the unfortunate part sometimes about this role and, doing the work we do, is sometimes people are seriously injured or worse, killed, and there's not a lot of coverage. And so that to your point, yeah, that's possible. That's possible.
Okay, okay. All right, Bart, you have anything?
No,
right now?
I did have one thing when I was listening, I was saying that I was thinking that I have never, thank God I've never been in an accident or car accident or any kind of accident so far. And my question was, I was like, well, what would I, if I needed an attorney, accidental attorney, what would I do? Or what are some things or precautions I can do or things that I need together so that I'll be able to be prepared, like documentations or
Hmm.
things I would need to be
Yeah.
prepared for my attorney to have. Because
Yeah.
sometimes
So
we
I think,
panic on
yeah.
the scene and we don't know what to do.
Right. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get photos of both vehicles.
Hmm.
Um, Vehicles are not made the same, right? One vehicle might be able to take a hit, and the other one may look like a soda can that smashed after the same hit, right?
Hmm.
So you want to get pictures of both vehicles because that may paint a different picture. You want to always call the police. You never want to aggrieve the scene because I can guarantee you the person is telling you, "Oh, I'll take care of it. I'll pay you." When y'all leave that scene, they're going to stop answering your call. So you want to get the police involved, have a police report, and you want to, make sure that you're seeking medical attention right away. And when you talk to the police, you want to tell them if you're feeling any pain and discomfort at the scene. You want to do all of those things. You want to stray away from saying, "Oh, I'm okay." You want to stop, we try to do this thing where we, don't want to perceive that we're being, whiny or weak or anything. No, no, you need to tell them what you're feeling. You need to be honest. And by the time you call your attorney, you should be calling them relatively quickly. I tell people don't delay. You want to call your attorney right away and you want to engage with, an attorney right away that can speak to the insurance company on your behalf. People shouldn't even be calling the insurance company to file the claims because they may say something when filing the claim, how are you feeling? Oh, I feel fine. Okay, well, they're going to take that and use that against you.
Yeah, that's recorded too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's recorded. You may not feel fine tomorrow. And
Hmm.
so you shouldn't even be calling and filing those claims. You should let your attorney do that.
Okay. Very well.
Okay. All right. Now
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to shoot. Now I want some legal advice here.
Sure.
Okay. So I got into an accident and someone hit me from the rear.
Hmm.
I got a broken leg and my neck hurt. All right. I have no legal representation at the time. The cop takes the police report and I go to the hospital and they didn't do much. Even though I had a broken leg, yeah, they didn't even treat it. They just gave me an aspirin and told me to go home. All right. So when do you know you have a case? I'm looking around, I'm hurt, and
Hmm.
I'm crying. Talk to me. Tell me.
Anytime, yeah, anytime there's been an accident and you've not been deemed at fault, you have a case. Now, the value of the case, right? Because your question is more to the value. Uh,
Yep.
well, I think your question's two-part. I think it's when do I have a case, but also once I know I have the case, then what's the value
Hmm.
of it? So just
Right.
baseline, there's been an accident to no fault of your own. You weren't at fault in any way. In most rear ends, I mean, there are times where there could be a rear end where the person that hit you may not be at fault. You could be braking excessively. I mean, we won't go down, the rabbit hole, but for the most part, when somebody hits you from the back, they're at fault. So it's to no fault of your own. Somebody causes an accident, you have a case. I think to the extent of what the case is worth, I think that's when you really need a good attorney that can assess the case and assess all the facts, get all of the investigative things out of the way, figuring out, if there's first a valid policy. It's unfortunate, but people do drive without insurance all the time. So is there a
Hmm.
valid policy? If so, what are the policy limits? Do you have coverage? What are your policy limits? There's a lot of things that have to, be investigated in the initial stages of a personal matter, a personal injury case. And so, any attorney that's telling you at the outset, "Oh, your case is worth this," be wary of that because, until we collect all the facts, no one can tell you that. Because the case can't be worth more than what the limits are. We're not going to know that immediately. So, just make sure that, the attorney is giving you good, solid information and it makes sense. They should be able to, explain things to you in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. Why did it take so long, though? From the time you sue to
Depends.
the time you get settled.
Yeah, because it depends on, your medical treatment. And we never want to rush medical treatment because, once the case settles, there's no going back to that person, right? To back to their policy. Once it's over, it's over. And so you don't want to rush your treatment and your recovery because people are going to have spurts in which they may feel fine today, but tomorrow they're going to be back in pain. And so some people are going to have to live with that pain forever, right? But to the extent that you're able to be made whole as you were prior to the accident, it's important to follow the treatment regimen and get to that point because the body will heal itself, but it's not an overnight process. And so sometimes we have to help the body heal itself. And so the doctors have to step in and do what they need to do and render whatever treatments they think are appropriate. And it's just not a quick process. And not all cases are going to resolve pre litigation. Sometimes we have to file lawsuits. That's going to lengthen the time even more. So I always tell clients, don't go by what your cousin's, boyfriend, what his case was. We don't know the facts of his case. And, truthfully, you don't either. So don't go by his case. Your case is going to be different for a variety of reasons. It could be as simple as some insurance carriers will pay out quicker than others. And it could be something that's simple and nuanced, but it's true. And so the facts are not always going to be the same.
Or is there a
What?
limitation? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is there a limitation that clients have when it comes to actually calling and filing the case or contacting their lawyer? It said prior to the accident occurs, somebody might get hurt and may not. You got in an accident, but you say, okay, something's wrong. And 2 weeks later or a month later, is there a limitation for filing these type of
Not really, but what I will say is cases where there are gaps, because what you're speaking about is a case with a gap
Mhm,
in cases with gaps tend to not resolve as favorably because the argument is going to be made if someone's injured, they're going to seek medical attention.
mhm,
So what the defense will often argue, or the insurance company, was, well, they didn't even seek treatment until 3 or 4 weeks later, so they weren't
mhm,
even hurt. Again, is there a bright line rule? No, but the further out you go in time,
mhm.
you're diminishing the value of your case. I'll say it that way. The
Okay.
longer span of time with no treatment, diminishing the value.
Yeah, when you call your doctor's office, you got to go through all this menu items with the
That's
AI,
exactly right.
and then
Oh, I don't
eventually,
understand. Can you say that again?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I understand, the frustrations with AI, but I also understand the unimaginable benefits of AI.
absolutely.
But